Hello, Tungsten Miner here. This is the start of a Let's Play series on a new mod pack that my server friends and I have been playing called Istari, which is the combination of The Lord of the Rings and Thaumcraft 4. Let's jump in. So, Lord of the Rings, hobbits, wizards, orcs, elves, dwarves, all sorts of fancy fan stuff. We are standing here in front of the Mugwort Cottage. Taking a look inside, we can see this is a pretty fancy hobbit hole. Lots of different rooms and stuff going on in each one. And what we can see is somebody's looted this place, because the carpet is missing, and there's a chest on the floor. Into the all-important kitchen, at least all-important to hobbits. And finally, into the dining room. So this mod pack focuses very strongly on the integration of these two, puts you in a position of perhaps a young Gandalf, making your way in the world and trying to learn magic while at the same time exploring Middle-earth. So speaking of exploring Middle-earth, I press my L key and I get my Middle-earth menu, select the map, and we can see that this is an enormous reproduction of Middle-earth. So you remember, the map that you see in the beginning of the book is like not even all of this. It's more like kind of that part of things, right? So we are dealing with an enormous distance. This whole map goes from, let's see, x equals negative 44,000 all the way over to positive 292,000. So that's what, 250 kilometers from one end to the other. Kilometers, not meters. And it deals with the hobbits, the elves, the Dunedain, the dwarves and orcs living through here, Lothlorien, Fangorn and the Ents, all of Gondor and their various principalities, Mordor with more orcs and trolls and wargs and all sorts of nastiness. This place is huge, and there is a ton of different cultures and civilizations to explore. Each of them having their own equipment, their own auto-generated structures. The place is huge. So in fact, if we go back to this menu, take a look at the factions. In the Westlands alone, we have hobbits, we have Bree, Dunedain, Blue Mountains, High Elves, Gundabad orcs, Angmar orcs, different breed of orcs, Woodland Realm, which is mostly Mirkwood elves, Dol Guldur, which is where Sauron was hiding before the Lord of the Rings began. Dale, Durin, so this is the dwarves basically up in the north. This is Nain and the others that came to help Thorin and the Hobbit. Lothlorien, of course, Dunland, which is the kind of men which are the enemies of Rohan, and we hear about them in the Battle of Helm's Deep. Isengard, of course, is where Saruman settled and made all the Uruk-hai. Fangorn is forest where Treebeard lives. Rohan, of course, the Horse Lords. Gondor, finally Mordor. But that's not all. There's the Dorwinian and Rune factions way off in the east. There's the south, so Harad. The Morwaith is kind of the lion civilization of the plains. The Taurathim, the jungle civilization to the far, far south. And then half trolls have their own kind of culture way off on this eastern end of the south continent. Lots and lots of factions. Lots and lots of different cultures and things going on. More to talk about that later. For now, though, I'm going to take you to my base. So we started this server about a week ago, which means all of us on the server are pretty well settled in as far as our permanent homes, but we've only just gotten started in both exploration and developing our individual magical capabilities. So here I have the very first and earliest easy golem to make. He's been collecting eggs for me, so now I have more or less infinite supply. I have also hired a hobbit farmhand, and she is tending my onion patch. Let's see what she's been able to gather so far. Oh, off to a good start. Over here I've got some pipeweed growing. I've got some corn. I've got a bunch of plants, all of these from Harvestcraft. And I got some wine growing. I made a trip over to Dorwinian where the wine is native. So now I'm just starting my own kind of crop of wine, of grapes I should say. I will turn it into wine later. All of these flags represent the different cultures that I have visited, and they're arranged in order of how popular I am with those factions. So you can see as I change this symbol at the very top of the screen, I'm an enemy to Mordor. I'm a Hayward with the Hobbits, and if we peek here, we can see their kind of ranking. So strangers, guests, friends, Hayward. So I'm kind of in the middle here. I can get up to being a bounder, at which point I will be able to hire hobbits, hire hobbit sheriffs to fight with me. As we look at different cultures, we can see they each have their own names for these different rankings. And I've become friends or enemies based upon whom I'm interacting with. So I've defeated a few invasions in the Dwarvish Mountains, and so I'm now pretty highly regarded in that part of the world. But I've spent almost no time in Dunland. I've spent almost no time near Isengard. I've spent no time at all in Fangorn. So I'm a complete stranger in these parts of the world. Inside here, you can see the combination of Lord of the Rings and Thaumcraft. A little visual glitch with these banners sometimes. So this is my house. So I've set up a banner to say who I want to be able to come and visit me and what permissions they're allowed to have when they do come visit. We'll talk about that in a future video. My crafting room. So here we can see an Elvis forge, which allows me to make elven steel that can only be made with this block. A dwarven forge, similar kind of thing. These can both do all the same stuff you would do with a furnace normally, but they also have extra recipes that those things don't have. Looking in here, though, we can see here's a bunch of Thaumcraft water shards. Here's some Eldivir, I think so, crystal that it comes from the Elven lands that you can use for making magical things to do with elves. A whole bunch of different kinds of trees, different parts of the world, different kinds of trees, some of which bear fruit, almonds and olives, some of which don't. Fir trees, chestnut trees, pears, cherry, apple, pine, cypress, even the famous Malorn trees. We head over here, we can see this is my magic room. So I've got my robes of the thaumaturge. I've got a chicken chunks chunk loader around my place. Here is my kind of magical crafting table. Over here is my research table where I figure out how to do these different things for my various research notes. So if I look in my Thaumonomicon, you can see that I've figured out some of the basic stuff, but I've still got a lot of things to figure out around the periphery of different devices and things that still need research. And of course, the way Thaumcraft works, half of the stuff in the game is not even on here, right? The boundaries have things in them that I don't even know enough to know that they're a thing that can be researched, much less being able to research it. So throw that back in there. Over here I have my Alchemy Room. So this is for breaking down essences of objects and being able to then convert them into other things using a crucible. Lots more to say on that subject in a future video. Here I've got my kitchen. So I'm using Cooking for Blockheads, which this is 1.7.10 because Lord of the Rings hasn't entirely made it into more modern versions. They are working on it, though, which is super exciting, but it's not quite there yet. So we're still playing on 1.7.10, which means Cooking for Blockheads is still in its very primitive kind of form. But you've got your refrigerators for holding stuff. You've got your crafting tables listing all the foods you can make. And then with a single click, you can figure out what actually is the recipe for all those things. Very, very convenient when you have a lot of different foods. Empty plates. I need to make some more food. We've got a millstone that allows you to make a whole bunch of different things, but especially things like grinding wheat into flour and breaking up bricks to get the cracked versions of things. Hobbit Oven, so you can cook multiple things at a time. You can't use this for forging, only for cooking food, but it's a very cheap way of cooking food. And then finally, in the Hobbit part of the house, I have my brewing room. This is actually a completely new brewing mechanic from vanilla, which allows you to make things like ale and cider and mead, cherry liqueur, and of course, eventually wine. I haven't got enough grapes yet, but once I do, I'll be making some wine. You can also brew things that give you potion effects. So Mirror makes you faster and have better attack damage. Athelas gives you regeneration and strength. Dwarven Tonic gives you night vision. And then there's the evil versions of many of these things. So Orc Draft is the equivalent of Miravor, giving you strength and speed. I haven't brewed any Orc Draft. This is just what I've managed to find, and I pour out in here. Because all of the drinks in Lord of the Rings come in various kinds of cups. So I've got wooden goblets, I've got a regular mug, a ceramic mug, an ale horn, a wineskin, and a skull cup. Lots more to say on the brewing mechanic and how this all works, but we'll save that for another time as well. And then finally over here in the Hobbit part of the house, I have a mine. So Lord of the Rings mod generates ores in pretty much the same way vanilla does. Different things showing up at different levels with certain probabilities and so forth. So this is my mine to go find whatever metallic resources I require down below. And apart from that is just overflow storage for a bunch of things. We do have these lovely Gondorian chests, which are made with tree wood that grows only in Gondor. And this one's empty, and this is where I keep my spare money. Yes, money. So not only can you hire people, but you can also trade with merchants that come and visit from time to time. And of course, you need capital to do that. So there's an entire quest mechanism that allows you to do favors for the people around you, in my case, hobbits, which they will then pay you for the favor. And if we go peek around, we might be able to find a hobbit nearby who is offering a quest. But I guess we're not so lucky. Here we do actually have some traders who are visiting us. So if I talk to this guy, I can ask, what is he selling? So he is selling this different set of equipment, including Lembas, and he will trade for any of these things. So I can drop those things in here, click this button, get some money. But I don't need to sell him anything right now, so we'll let him go on his way. And then back inside, now we can see my silverwood trees back there. So back in here, also Bibliocraft. We've got Bibliocraft tables and things here. The bricks are from Lord of the Rings mod. They give you a whole bunch of different options that are not in the vanilla game. This is a well that gives you an unlimited supply of water, which you need for the cauldron, of course. A reed basket from Lord of the Rings. All of these different crafting tables are from different races around the world. So Dorwinian and Galadrim, so Lothlorien, Rivendell, Lindon, so basically the elves that live by the sea, Rohan, and a whole bunch more. As we move into the magical side of the house, I really only got one room set up right now, and this is even itself only in its infancy. This is my Infusion Chamber. And if you have played Thaumcraft before, you know that one, this can be a very hazardous activity, and two, that all of these objects, the candles and the skulls and the crystals and whatnot, decrease the danger by making the magical processes run more smoothly. But if you played Thaumcraft before, you know this is not very many, so I'm early days here. Oh, looks like somebody's logged on to the server here. So I have made a few basic things in here, but I will need to stabilize this room a good deal more before I can really use it. But we've got some dwarf blocks on the floor here, silver trimmed dwarf bricks. We've got chisel, so that was able to give us just a fancy pattern on regular arcane stones. Glowing stone dwarven bricks, so you can actually find glowstone ore under the mountains where the dwarves live. And the rest of this is just chisel and architecture blocks, architecture craft, I should say. These little guys are Niter from Thaumcraft. Little fun way to get some extra light. And that's kind of it for this very, very brief introduction to the mod pack and to the server. We have about 4 players right now, and we are happy to host some more. If this sounds interesting to you, then look in the notes below for instructions on how to apply to join our server. And if you like, you can run the mod pack all on your own. You'll find instructions for that down below as well. Remember to like the video and please subscribe if you want to follow the rest of this series on Istari. That's it for now. Talk to you later.